for me, it was, military, first Gulf War. I was in the infantry. I'm told what I need to do to kill that man. Well, hang on, we're in his country doing that. That man has a family. That man has a living. And there was a long period where I haven't had any psychedelics whatsoever. And they've just started to come back in my life, but in a way more conscious, much, much more conscious way. And for me now, it's a way of accessing the points in my body, the universe, nature around me, that maybe I've forgotten or have difficulty or blockages accessing.
Hello, all beautiful people, lovely, brave people all around this magical, gorgeous planet. This is another Beyond the College podcast. My name is Robert Canis, and today we have another amazing guest from Australia, Luke Di Sessa. How are you doing?
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Robert. It's great to be here.
Last week we had a really amazing guest on the podcast, Nick San, who is an Australian stand-upper, author, and podcaster. I highly recommend to see this one as well. I was laughing for 2 hours like crazy. We talk about comedy, but also we talk about consciousness, about spirituality. We had a great thread about this superbly interesting plant, which is iboga. And today we have another great guest from Australia. How are you doing, Luke, today?
Yeah, I'm fabulous. Thanks, Robert. I'm really looking forward to this chat with you.
Would you be so kind and introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Robert. My name's Luke Di Sessa. I'm 46 years old. I currently reside in Adelaide, which is my hometown in South Australia, towards the bottom of Australia. I have been traveling the world for some time, trying to find a version of myself and trying to find a community where I can communicate openly and honestly, particularly amongst men. I notice in Australia particularly there is a way of being for men, and I find it quite closed and non-communicative. And I got involved in men's work. Was introduced to men's work, which is quite a broad title. And I found it a place for me to be able to realize a fuller version of myself. And through this journey over the last 6 years, what I realized is in Tasmania, there's quite a strong community of men. And what I wanted was that in my community in Adelaide. So along with Michael Brennan and myself, we began a not-for-profit and charity called Good, Better, Best Men, where we run 9-week men's journey programs and also open men's groups. It's been going for 18 months now, and I think we've had 65 men go through the Begin the Journey 9-week program. And we've also got 4 open groups running weekly throughout the city at the moment. We're also training men in the leadership around the programs so that we can spread these further through our community. So we're in the process of building this really strong community of courageous men. Part of it is for me, what it's about is building inner strength and courage to face my own demons, so that I can step out into the world and be courageous in the world. And this is my passion, and I love doing this in Adelaide and creating this community.
Yeah, I love the idea, and I love your work. I read all your website, and it's I love the logo, by the way. The logo is very creative. Good, better, best.
What we're doing.
Yeah.
For me, part of it is, particularly with the logo, it's a man standing in front of a man standing in front of another man. So supporting men and men supporting men in the community, but also it speaks to the ages. We have, so Michael's a man who's retired, the man I started Good, Better, Best Men with. And eldership in our community is something that seems to have been lost, and the reverence of eldership in our community. And so, for me, part of the symbol is having that eldership within our community. I'm the middle age, the one out doing the work, and we're also mentoring young men as well in our community now as well, which this rites of passage, having good, healthy male mentors in our lives is not always available, and so that's part of what we're doing as a community, is being these healthy male mentors for young men, possibly with single mothers or without who don't have good male mentors in their lives, and give them advice or hear their stories. We listen. We don't actually give advice. It's about listening to their stories and everyone being heard, and then sharing my lived experience. And when the elders share their lived experience, I get to learn from that. Everyone gets to learn from.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful. And a question popped up to my mind. What are the modern men most ashamed of?
Good question.
Thank you.
Shame, in my experience, shame is the biggest blocker for men in the world at the moment. And the shame varies. It varies for each man depending on their experience. And all of it is valid. So it could be something that often it's something that's happened as a child, and I haven't integrated yet. And so it plays out in my adult life, as part of fear and the way I carry myself in the world. If I can face that shame in a really safe way, which is what we do in the men's groups, allow a space for men to be able to talk about and express that shame. If I can shift that, I move out of my little boy and into an adult version of myself, so I can be stronger on the inside. So, yeah, I mean, there is no one answer for what are men ashamed of. It varies for each man. The key that you've really jumped on straight away is that each man has shame. And if each man doesn't have an opportunity to move or shift or talk about that shame, it sits deep within us for our lives and actually controls a lot of our behavior.
Yeah, it's a very wide question, right? We can talk about it probably for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share my shame. I've done a lot of work around it. My shame.
Would you be so kind share with us your story about
Yeah,
your shame
of
and
course.
releasing that shame?
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Yeah. So there are a few pieces of shame for me. I think one of them is, there's a sexual shame for me. So as a young man, I had sex education at school, which was how to put a condom on a banana. It's not very helpful at all with relating to people. But what happened, as a young man, I moved houses quite often. My dad was a bank manager, so we moved, and that helped me grow. I think it was a wonderful experience. And I moved around country, South Australia, and what that meant was, I was new at every school I went to, and the girls were quite interested in me because I was someone different. I didn't really know what to do about it. And what would happen is my dad would find out, and because he's kind of one of the center points in the town, and he would come home and tease me about it. And so what that led to me doing is being ashamed about having girlfriends. And so when it came time for me to start having a sexual experience or wanting to communicate with girls, the only person the male in my life who I really liked to go speak to about it, which was my dad, I was too ashamed to go speak with him for fear of embarrassment, which is what had been happening. Thankfully, my dad and I have a wonderful relationship these days, and I've been able to communicate this with him. And this has been part of me moving through that shame. First of all, I had to identify that shame. Throughout my 20s, I was quite aware that, I was shameful speaking with my friends about girlfriends. And if my friends, teased me or belittled me a little bit, that shame would come up again. What I've been able to do is understand and uncover that shame, sitting with men as an adult now, and to be able to move through that. And thankfully now what I can do is if any shame comes up while I'm with a partner, I can speak that with her. I feel comfortable within myself to be able to have this conversation openly with a partner, and not be belittled or teased because of it, which, to be able to be seen and to be heard in what's real for me on the inside. And that helps me move through it. There's shame about speaking out, about speaking from my heart, for fear of being told I'm wrong, for being shut down. What I've learnt in that is as a young man, I was in the Army Reserves and the Air Force Cadets, and I learnt to teach in a very specific way, and it was a very, very regimented way, as you can imagine, in a military sense. And I can't place what happened, but there was a change in my life where I stopped leading, speaking out, and I've been playing small my whole life, I guess. And then came COVID, and I couldn't be quiet any longer. There was things happening in Australia that I was actually more ashamed of what was happening in my country than my own shame, and I knew I had to do something about it. And so I took to the streets and started speaking up. My purpose throughout COVID, I know it can be a bit of a sensitive topic, and it wasn't about, us and them, vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers. To me, we're one humanity, and how do we bring all of these people together? What I saw was fear on both sides of the fence and people being separated, and that's not the world I want to live in. I want to live in a world where people come together and support each other. It was fear that was driving that. So I wanted to get to the root cause of what is the fear, and the fear was the same for everybody. Ultimately, it's fear of death, but also fear of being rejected and fear of being alone. And so my purpose through all of that was to bring community together and bring people together. And I started building inner strength by speaking out, both practicing within my men's groups, but then also practicing in public. At some point, I was speaking to 18,000 people at rallies, having quite nervous internal reactions leading up to that and afterwards as well. Not scripted anymore. That was a big journey I went through, is learning not to script, but just to have some key points and speak from my heart. All of this the Good, Better, Best Men logo or tagline is men's journey to their heart. And so what I've learned to do is speak from my heart. And sometimes it doesn't land with everybody, but it lands with most people because they can see what I'm speaking is genuine. It's coming from a genuine place. And I'm also open to listening to others' points of views and opinions as well. It's not just my way or the highway. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Would you agree that the shame and fear is an energy within us which we can transcend or release, even by, like, when you meet in the circles, right? Talking is also releasing that energy, right?
Absolutely.
What are the other tools that you guys using, tools or methods to transcend whatever we need to be? Good, better, best men.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Absolutely. So fear and shame are an energy that's held deep within. One of the tools that we bring to men is emotional awareness. So understanding what the emotion is to start with, because often I didn't even know for me, I didn't even know what shame was. I didn't know what fear was. And then it's about identifying where it is in my body. So anxiousness, for me, it's in the center of my chest. Shame is deep within my belly. I can feel it. If I can identify the feeling in my body, particularly when it's coming up, I can then start to do things to shift it. So I can do somatic experiences. I can, if I'm anxious and I'm feeling it in my chest, often I'll start to shallow breathe and start to, shoulders will come forward and I'll start to play small. The idea for that would be to do the opposite. So push my shoulders back, stretch out, and start to take long, slow, deep breaths to counteract what my body is doing. So doing the opposite of the fear response, do the opposite and push it out and be a bigger version of myself. So that's a somatic experience. Talking about it is honestly what changes it the most for me, is to be able to sit in a room of men in a confidential space with no judgment, practicing non-judgment, and to be able to share what's going on for me in my life and where I'm feeling it, and to speak about it possibly for the first time ever in my life. Even that, I've seen men go into total shutdown, anxiousness about even speaking into this thing. The simple act of owning it, speaking into it, saying, yeah, it's mine. I've done this, or I feel this. And to be seen in that is often enough to do quite a massive shift to the next step. And then it becomes like onions. The first one is often the biggest and the hardest. But then it's layers upon layers upon layers, and they actually become easier over time. So having a safe space to speak it out is really, really the key. I mean, that's what counselors and psychologists and things are for. But there's something uniquely different about doing it at a grassroots level with men in our community, holding that space for each other and hearing each other as men. We communicate differently. We understand each other differently. And so to be able to do that in community with each other is such a powerful tool to support each other. And it's ongoing. That's the beauty of it. If I have a community of men which I can reach out to, if I have some issues going on in my life. I mean, a pivotal point in my life, one of my attributes, not a good attribute, was if I ever had an argument with a partner, I would flight. So I would get in the car and I would leave. I'd go for a drive. I'd go down the beach or go to a park. And the adrenal energy through that argument would make me quite tired. So I'd often sleep for an hour or so. And then I would go home with my tail between my legs and try to resolve what I'd left. What men's work did for me was change one thing, one simple thing. One time I'd had an argument and I did the same thing. I got in my car and went for a drive. I went to a park and I was really upset. I was crying. I was quite upset. But I did one thing differently. Because I have this community of men around me now, I called a man that I trust, that would be able to hear me and be able to witness me in my worst possible state. The biggest fear of being seen in this state as weak or pathetic or unmanly. This man just came and sat with me, and all he did was listen to me. He didn't actually have to say anything. He just heard me, just saw me in this space, in my worst possible form. And I was witnessed in that space and realized that actually I'm okay. I'm actually okay. And I was able to clear what was going on in my head, the stories and everything, just by speaking it out with this man. And I went back a different man. My life changed from quite pivotally from that point, knowing that I can reach out to men whenever I have issues in my life.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing to have a support of the group, right?
Yeah.
How do you see the core of essence of male energy nowadays?
How do I see the core essence of male energy?
Yeah, of masculinity.
Whoa, that's a big question. I love this, Rob.
Well, that's why we call this project Beyond the Courage, because we are going beyond and beyond courage, right?
Yeah.
And you are actually doing great,
Thank you,
with
man.
your work and today in this podcast as well, I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you, Robert. Look, where is male energy in the world? I feel like there's two forms. There are a lot of
Mhm.
there are more good men in this world than I know. Um, and what I find with all of these good men, so every man has a good man within inside of him. We're all good. And sometimes, including myself, I do stupid things. Or my energy, my shame, my fear comes out and I do something that I'm not proud of. But what I can do with that energy within a men's group is speak that out. What I feel is there are a lot of good men doing good things in the world who are playing small because we're too fearful because of the men that are out there doing they're quite outspoken and not representing men in a very good way. And what that does is I see it reduces safety in the community for women. And so what happens is we shut men down. Men get shut down. And what that does is make a good man fearful for speaking up. It's a bit of a contentious discussion I've been having around some outspoken men in the community who are being targeted as toxic masculinity, which is quite a general term. I'm not even sure what it relates to because the masculine is in both woman and man. So I'm not as feminine is both in woman and man. So I'm not sure what toxic masculinity is actually directed at. I mean, when I hear it, it's directed at men. Toxic masculinity is in all sexes. I think I understand what they're talking about, and they're fearful that there are men in this world who are acting out of their trauma, out of their fears, and so they become quite belligerent in the world. What the issue I see with these men is that the view is that these men are dangerous. Don't allow them to talk. And so what that does is it creates a shame across men, even good men across society. The way I view the world is every man has a good man within him and is looking to be a better version of himself. And without the right guidance, that's where the toxicity comes in. If I'm following not a very nice man as a leader. So as a young man, so my example, as a young man, I found myself, I had some male mentors while I was in the military. I left the military. It was a drinking culture. And so my next step was drinking. Like that's where I found my influences. So drinking, which then led to drugs and partying, and it goes down a not a very good spiral.
Mhm.
For me, it ended up in blue and red lights. And if males don't have good male mentors to look up to in their life, we will look for them in any way we can. And often it'll be the outspoken ones. And so as young men, we need to be, or as men, my role is to be able to create good male mentors in society. Because I see what's happening is there's other males in society on social media who young men are reaching out to. The contentious thing that I say is not everything that man says is bad, and that's and that actually often raises eyebrows because the view of these men are that they're just bad men. It's like no, they actually have good within them. There are some things that they say that are quite good, and then they take it too far. And there are things that they say bad as well. And so what happens is I'm told that this is a bad man. And I remember being told that at school, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. And I wanted to start asking questions. Why is that a bad man? What's going on? Like, he's not all bad. He must do something well. For me, it was, military, first Gulf War. I was in the infantry. I'm told what I need to do to kill that man. Well, hang on, we're in his country doing that. That man has a family. that man has a living. What is he protecting? I would like to know a little bit more about him and his story before I pull a trigger and kill a man. Now, of
Before
course,
I
I'm not
pull the trigger.
before I pull a trigger. Now, I'm not allowed to do that in the army, so
Mm.
didn't last very long there doing that. And I feel the same when I see a man in pain or see a man saying dangerous things. I want to know what his essence is, what his core is, what his wounding is. Where is this coming from? What are you afraid of? If I can get to the essence of that, I can find out who this man really is. And we can actually start to uncover those things. My experience of dangerous men in the world, even in my community here, is that they are wounded men. Something has happened to them in their life that they haven't faced. And it's so scary for them to face because of, it's probably something that happened to them in childhood that they had to, this is a survival technique that worked for them. Unfortunately, what they're now doing is reproducing that and causing more damage on society. If that man has the willingness to step in and say, actually, I'm not okay with this. I've done this thing. It's not, I can see I'm not, it's not okay. I need to do something about this. And if a man has a willingness to make one change, he can change everything in his life. Does that answer the question, Robert?
Yeah, it's a very nice put. Start changing one thing, and then have this urge to change anything, right?
Absolutely. There are visionaries in this world. I've been playing. Where do I go? I've been playing small. I've been playing small my whole life for fear.
Mm-hmm.
For fear, but I know my heart is good. I know my message is good. I know, what comes from here is pure and beautiful and is, and the intention is great for the world. It's still going to upset some people. And I'm aware of that. And I'd love to have conversations with those people to understand. I'm not going to turn them away. What I see in the world is there are men who are not fearful to play big. They are visionaries in the world. Visionaries in the world. And they're changing this world for better or for worse. But I need to know who I am and what is the legacy I would like to leave in the world. What is my vision for the world and how do I act upon that to make the world a better place for me and for those around me? So if I can see what my vision is for the whole world, I can bring that to myself and I can act in courage and strength in my house, in myself, in my house, in my family, in my community, and start affecting change for the better. And every man has this capability.
Yeah.
This is one of the things we play with.
Thank you. And I love that you have a courage within you to say that what's here, it's beautiful. You have mentioned that you were able to build a really nice quality relationship with your dad. I'm also working very hard for many years to build a relationship with my dad. We used to have a very toxic relationship, extremely toxic. And nowadays I can go to my dad and tell him that I love him and I'm very thankful for life. I also made him an offer to record a podcast with him, very honest, very open podcast about the whole journey, his life. We will see how it will go through. He's thinking about it, but how you done it? How you built this beautiful relationship with your dad?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. It's so beautiful to hear your story and wonderful to bring him into your work as well. How have I done it
Thank
for
you.
me? Look, I was sharing this story with a friend yesterday, and I don't know who said this, but it rings really true with me. If I think I'm enlightened, go back and live with my parents. My parents are going to trigger the hell out of me, and they still do, right? it's how I react. I can't control my dad. My dad is my dad. He's always going to be like this. I can only control my reaction to him, and to do that, I need to understand him more. It becomes this inversion. Instead of my dad, looking after me, and all I want is my dad to hear me. My dad actually just wants to be heard too.
Yeah.
And so to hear my dad and to hear his story and where his pain comes from, where his shame comes from, where his anger comes from, and to have that deep understanding of him allows me to be more gentle with him and to be more understanding with him. So when he does react in what sounds like a frustrated voice for him, I can understand where that's coming from. It's not actually about me. There's something going on for him. And so I can sit and hold that space for him and have that conversation. And it's created this beautiful relationship. I guess I always saw my dad as against me, two opposing forces. When in actual fact, my dad has always had my best interest at heart. We just have different ways of going about it, I think. But reaching that level of understanding really has opened that up for me. And look, I've had to go through quite a journey to be able to reach a point where I'm open to hearing my dad in this way. There's stuff I had to move through within myself, some wounding around my dad myself, so that I could have these conversations and be open to hearing him in this.
Yep, that's also superbly beautiful. I got another very challenging question.
I love this.
How to build long-lasting quality partnerships nowadays, partnerships and relationships? Because nowadays, we see and hear almost everyone around us, people just split up after a couple of years. They gave up. There's so much toxicity. It's so easy today to get married, get divorced, or there's so many tools to meet more people, like all those dating sites and apps. And how from your experience, from your work, how we can build those beautiful, magical, long-lasting partnerships and relationships?
Thank you, man. I am definitely not the expert in this. I've been going through my own journey of relationships. I ended a 9-year relationship a year ago. I'm in the process of building a new one right now. And for me, what it has really been about is understanding myself. I have to have a beautiful relationship with myself first. Having a beautiful relationship with myself, knowing myself and loving myself, so that I'm not relying on the other person to do these things for me. I already have these things within myself. Now, that's a very new paradigm for me. I've been always externally looking for validation, particularly in relationship, from women. I have codependent behaviors, nice guy tendencies, always trying to please the other person. And, I'm learning a lot about what it is to please myself first, to put myself first, so that my heart is full and my energy is full, so then I can give more to others. The successful relationships I see are the ones that accept each other as they are. And there will always be issues. People will always argue. There will always be tension that comes up. It's how that is communicated, heard, understood, and accepted by each other as as a willing participant in a way to improve the relating with each other. It really comes down to listening, to fully hearing what is happening for my partner, and to being fully heard within myself. I guess, for me, I haven't felt worthy of being heard in a relationship. And part of that is my wounding, around my mother. I love my mother dearly, and I also don't have a communicative relationship with my mother. And I hold a lot of sadness inside because of that. And often that's played out in relationships. So, I'm not worthy of my mother's love, therefore I'm not worthy of a woman's love. So how does that play out? Well, I need to create that worthiness within myself. And I guess there's two parts of me going on. There's a little boy that's telling me stories in my head, and he runs rampant. And then there's the adult Luke that wants to act emotionally secure and level. And so for me, it becomes about reprogramming these stories that I've been told, that I'm not worthy, that I'm not lovable as I am. And what I've been able to do in the men's work is to speak these things, and then I've been able to go out and practice these things, to do some activities like, am I lovable as I am? The story of being rejected. Okay, so let me try and get rejected. Let me go speak with women and try and get rejected. Oh, I don't get rejected for that. That little guy, I'm sorry, your old story is wrong. So that's been my journey, but really it comes down to taking the time, listening, and deeply understanding each other for better relating, and not trying to change anybody.
Yeah, just very open communication, ability to listen to the other being, right?
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit more of the philosophical question. How do you view life in general? Like, what is life? What is consciousness? Why are we here? Where are we going?
Good question.
I love you that you like that.
So
that's
life
one of my favorite questions. Actually, this is one of my favorite topics. Going
beautiful.
diving deep into life.
This is great. Okay, so what I often ask this, like, what are we here for? What are we doing? If I do an activity, if I do things, and I can feel my energy body. If it depletes me in a really negative way and I become sick, or tired, and I'm not able to get up the next day and do the next thing, energetically, I'm not doing the right thing. If I'm in a joyful, playful, creative place, these are the things that expand my energy and give me ability to do more. So there's something about, for me, bringing people together, creating community, creativity, joy, and playfulness, that is a purpose in the world for me here. It creates, it's a magnetic energy, and it brings other people in to create more energy. Mm-hmm. And I feel that with, my community around me, but also within partnership with a woman. And what it's all about for me is getting back to source. Living is a practice of dying. We're all going to die. So how do I die? How do I meet death as a friend, joyfully?
That's a great question.
And for me, it's coming through my heart. It's doing the creative things that bring people together. Now, it's not the same for everybody, but everybody has their own heart mission. They know deep inside what lights them up. You can hear it when I speak about things. If I speak about going to the dump, my voice changes, I drop. If I talk about sitting in a circle with men and creating community, my energy rises, my eyes light up, my voice changes. Everybody has that within them. If they just pay a little attention to what they're saying and what lights them up and lean in towards that creative, joyful energy, that's what I believe we're here to do. You're doing, this is you doing it through the podcast and asking wonderful questions and bringing this to the world. This is a creative energy. I see it in the colors behind you, the nature behind you. It's in the energy you're holding. Your joy. It's here. So how do we bring more of that to the world so that I can die with legacy? People will remember me when I die for my creativity and my joy in bringing community together. And what is that for each person? That's actually part of what we do within the program, is we look at what is each man's purpose? What is each man's vision? What is each man's mission in life? And so...
are you afraid of death?
Am I afraid of... Good question.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I would be lying if I said no.
Mm-hmm. Because
I have too much to do. Die yet. But there are things that, I think about, some of my childish behaviors. The reason those childish behaviors happen is because as a young man, I was fearful of not getting my needs met, which is a fear of death. And so that is still there. I surf, but I still have fear of sharks. So there is fear of death within me. Absolutely. And I think it's because I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. And I haven't reached a point where I can greet death as a friend yet. But I'm walking towards the path to finding that. And maybe I never will. Maybe I will have fear in the end. Maybe I just let that go on my deathbed. Who knows?
Some people say that death is the biggest illusion, that we don't die. There's just like a process of death, of transition consciousness, reatomizing consciousness from being human to coming back to source, whatever life beyond this.
Yeah, look,
You think it may help transcend a little bit, or
I think
downgrade the fear of death?
Yeah, look, I think it does. You know what I think the fear is? I tend to agree, right? I studied physics at school. At that point, I knew that energy doesn't just disappear. The energy in the body has to transmute to something. It can't just disappear. That's not how it works. So I have a belief that there is my soul, which is separate from my body, and when I die, my soul energy goes somewhere else. I've spent 46 years so far in whatever this made up timeline that we have attached to this body. And so my soul is going to have a little bit difficulty separating from this body. It quite likes it. It's served me well so far. So there will be a time when my soul will detach, and that could be difficult. And for me, that's what death is exactly that. I heard you say returning to source. It's returning to, that soul leaving this vessel and returning to source. And I might have a little bit of difficulty with that.
If you are about to draw or paint a soul, how would it look like?
If I were to draw or paint a soul, how would it look like?
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you have any vision about that? Any intuition in your heart?
Wow. Okay, so initially my mind went to, it'd be the shape of a human figure, but bigger, like just sort of the outline, almost like the good, better, best, but rounder. And it wouldn't have sharp edges. It would have blurry edges, and it would actually be multicolored and multi-dimensional as well. And then it would move, it would transmute into other things. And actually, it's part of the whole universe. It becomes part of the energy of everything and part of the universe. How would I paint that? I have no idea. I saw the smoke rising out of the fire, into the universe on a starry night over camping over last weekend. It might look something like that, you know.
You are painting right now. You're doing great.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Do you have any experience with psychedelics, with the saint plants?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you be so kind to elaborate on how those tools help you be a best man?
Thank you, man.
Or human being?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it's been an interesting journey for me. In my 20s and 30s, I turned to drugs and alcohol, and so I used psychedelics and drugs for escapism, partying, the reaching the high. And often I wouldn't just take one. It was whatever I could get my hands on. And so it certainly wasn't a conscious journey. In saying that, I was always conscious at the time of I was always able to remain conscious, separate from my body in this consciousness. I don't know how to explain this. And there was a long period where I haven't had any psychedelics whatsoever. And they've just started to come back in my life, but in a way more conscious, much, much more conscious way. And for me now, it's a way of accessing the points in my body, the universe, nature around me, that maybe I've forgotten or have difficulty or blockages accessing. And so the psychedelics open those up for me now. It's a fast track. It's not, for me, it's not a be-all solution at all. I've actually achieved probably a higher state and a closer connection to source through breath work than I have through psychedelics. Breath work has taken me to some amazing places. And I've actually, one of my breathwork journeys, I saw perfection. Not only did I see it, I felt it. And what all that looked like was a white light, but I knew when it was that, like, that's it. This is what I'm striving towards. And I can't put it into words what every piece of that was, but I know that I'm on the path to finding that joy and the happiness and the pleasure that vision gave me. So yeah, I see psychedelics as a tool, an access point, and also a playful space as well. It's nice to play and create a creative, playful space, connective to nature as well.
Yeah, I discovered this word when I was in my mid-40s. They called me very heavy. I did a lot of sessions, and I think for young people it could be more like fun. If you're like you said, we're in the mid-age, those could be huge accelerators of raising consciousness.
I think part of I agree. I absolutely agree, and I think part of the problem, and this is the same as what I was saying with, when we say this man is a bad man, it's like I was told at school that drugs are bad. Drugs will kill you. Drugs are bad. They were so wrong. They absolutely lied to me. Drugs are fun. Drugs are,
Oh yeah, they are.
they lied.
Mm.
So I don't even know, what else did they tell me that they lied about? I know I was lied about the history of Australia, with the First Fleet and what actually happened. The version of history is told by the victors. So I've had to go experience things myself to create my knowledge of the world in a way that wasn't tainted by other people's lies. And drugs was part of that. I think if there was a more holistic approach to drugs in the young, to sex, to drugs, to the fear and anger that's going on, particularly in young men, if we had a holistic and open discussion approach to it, it would be a very different world instead of this is bad, don't do it, which is not true. Nothing is all bad. That's not how the universe works. Nothing
Yep.
is all bad.
And nothing is all good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
I consider myself free. I traveled a lot, but I was the guy that never committed to anything. So, hey, Luke, there's a party on Saturday night. Would you like to come? Oh, I'll see. And I wouldn't decide until that night because, there might be something else on or whatever. And I'd be the drifter. I'd come in, I'd go out. And I considered myself free, but I wasn't happy. Freedom for me now, and I use the word discipline, and a man shared this with me the other night. So discipline is the word I've been using to create freedom. And I'm not talking about the discipline, my military style discipline. Wake up in the morning, do 100 push-ups, make my bed, everything's got to be lined up. Not that sort of discipline. It's discipline within myself to doing what inspires me and makes me happy. The word that's been reframed for me is structure. What is the structure in my life? So a very masculine concept is having structure. Business models are structure. Cities are structure. That's the masculine world. It's how my mind works. It thrives on structure. So if I get up in the morning and I do my practice every morning, I do a combination of Qigong and yoga. Great. I get up and do that. I make my bed. I have a shower. So this is my structure starting for the day. It could be a meditation, whatever each man's structure is. And what I'm finding is with this structure, I'm the busiest I have ever been. I am accomplishing the most I have ever done. And I'm the happiest I've ever been. And so freedom is that state of mind for me, is accomplishing my mission in life and my purpose in life. This is my freedom.
Wow, that's superbly well. But I love that. But like you said, like even in relationship with men, women, that there always be something to, however we call it, fight about or. Maybe I ask you that question. How do you understand the institution of ego? Because the ego is directly relating to that fighting about energy, attention, differences, right? Freedom as well. The ego refers to everything, right? How do you understand? And what is the purpose of ego from your understanding?
Thank you. Good question. Good questions. So, as a young man, I was quite confident. I was in the Air Force Cadets, Army Reserves. I was in a team leader role in a corporate environment at a very young age. I was arrogant. My ego drove.
Ego loves
this
to
bus.
be arrogant, right?
Sorry?
ego loves to be arrogant and use
Oh,
this.
yeah, I loved it.
It's like a framework, like a yeah, based of all of that, right?
Absolutely. And what the ego did for me is drive this bus to ruin. Now the ego,
That's what ego does, right? It ruins
right.
everything.
If the ego goes unchecked, it will drive it to ruin.
Mm.
And so what I've learned to do, I mean, there was a long time where I shut down my ego and disassociated from my ego. And I think that's what part of that freedom and drifter mentality was really separating from my ego. I actually read a lot of books around ego and understanding what it was and what was driving me. And I think now ego is actually very, very beneficial to me. If I can integrate my ego into my being in a really healthy way, I can bring myself forward to humanity in a beautiful way. I need my ego to be able to sit here and do this podcast with you, to be able to say, yeah, I'm worthy of this podcast with Robert and the questions he's going to ask me. Without that ego of actually, yeah, I can do this, I would still be in bed right now. And it allows me to step forward and go, I'm going to create a community. I'm going to speak on social media. I'm going to speak at a rally. Like, my ego, in a healthy sense, drives me forward. And so it's integrating that into myself in a really healthy way, but not allowing it to drive this bus. And I've heard numerous times, particularly recently, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something around ego. And I heard it from a couple of different people. And so for me, what I can then do is I can go to my men's group and say, hey, I've heard this in my life a couple of times. This is a red flag for me around my personal journey and ego. I'm going to keep an eye out and for myself around my ego. And what I want to invite is the men in this circle. If you witness me or experience my ego, please let me know and hold me accountable. So I've got these wonderful checkpoints to keep my ego in check, because I want it. It's healthy to an extent, and I want the healthy version of it. And I just want it kept in check as well with some beautiful men in my life. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Beyond the College is a creation about celebrating life, also about celebrating our guests and our viewers, our listeners. How would you like to be celebrated? Or maybe I can refer this question, how the modern man, conscious modern man, would love to be celebrated in this world. Celebrated, appreciated.
Mine's quite simple. Mine is to be heard and to be acknowledged. I don't need a ticker tape parade. I don't need, names in the paper. I don't need a trophy. I don't need awards. I just need to be seen and to be heard for who I am. And that's enough for me to be celebrated. Yeah, man. It's really that simple.
It's
having my heart heard.
Beautiful, simple. Yeah.
It's really simple. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got another question. That's actually from the completely different approach. How to have simply put, how to have a very healthy body, mind in nowadays? What would be your advice to achieve that? Because there's so many people sick out there. There's so many people being in obesity and poor health, or very poor mental health. So many people depressed, anxious. Like most of the humanity is actually in that state of consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how to have a healthy life. Connection is number one for me to be able to have a healthy life. and healthy connection, not just, you know, argumentative connection. That's that toxicity. It will store in my body. It will come out as disease in some way.
This
So to
is
have healthy quality connections in my life is one way. So that's mental health.
Is it also connection with yourself, or connection with others?
So sometimes it's, you know, it's the chicken before the egg. Sometimes I'm in such a bad way that I don't understand how to have connection with myself, or I've just lost so much. You know, the stories that are going on in my head are telling me so many bad things. But if I can go sit in a room of men and have other men disprove that and tell me something different, and go, oh, I am actually acceptable as I am in this way. Not that I'm not worth anything. There's no point me even getting out of bed. You're welcome as that man stepping into this space, and you're seen and acknowledged as that. Taking that one step for an anxious man to come out of his house into a men's circle, that's huge. Absolutely huge. That's courage. That is courage. And if that man can do that one step for himself, he can do the next step. He can do the next step. Instead of seeing the ladder from here to here, we can just do incremental little steps. And so that increases, you know, the positive chemicals in a man's brain. So that's mental health. Physical health. This is an interesting one. I have a very strong opinion of this. I see so many people going to the gym. And I don't want to knock anyone that goes to the gym. The gym has a purpose. But it's an enclosed environment. It becomes such a routine thing. The thing for me and physical exercise is it needs to be joyous. It needs to be playful. So I went kayaking yesterday up a river that actually had no water in it. So we ended up hiking with 2 kayaks for a ridiculous amount of time. And the land was stunning. My body is wrecked today. My feet are a mess, you know, but I'm good. My soul is full. You know, I'm not upset because we didn't do the thing we said we were going to do. You know, we didn't get to kayak all this way. I was just happy to be in nature. I was happy to be in this playful space. I surf. You know, surf is the ultimate connection for nature for me. It's also an ultimate lesson in surrender, because there are times when I am terrible and those waves will beat me down and there's nothing I can do but surrender and let go. I can't control everything that happens to me and this body. And sometimes surrender is just the best way to let that be in life. And so true health for me, mental, physical, you know, diet, all comes with joy, playfulness and joy. If I can find fun in it. You know, humans learn quicker through experience and even quicker again through a fun experience. And for me, that's what health is how do I create these fun experiences in my life all day, every day? If I get up and do my morning routine and I hate it, why do it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's worse than doing the activity. Like beating myself and hating myself on it is worse than I'm better off just not doing it. If I do something and berate myself for it, like, why am I doing this? Don't do it. If I don't do something and berate myself for it, the berating is worse than the not doing it.
I was about to ask you that. What is it worse to?
Yeah. You know, it's to find those things that bring me joy and to elevate me, those things that increase that sound in my voice, that light me up. Yeah.
I got a question which may be very interesting for women, for female energy. What are the biggest taboos for men nowadays? Like the subjects, you know, like men, like even if you guys sit in a circles, and what are the men, you know, like the biggest taboos out there that they don't even want to approach, or they don't want to even start talking about it?
In circle or in public?
Well, maybe you can elaborate on both.
Yeah, okay. In circle, it's different for each man, because whatever his deepest shame or fear is what that is going to be. And the way we approach that in men's circle is, as a facilitator in the circle, my role is to be as vulnerable as possible to model what can be spoken. I often cry in circle to show that all emotions are welcome. Anger,
That's so beautiful.
be angry in a circle, as long as I'm not directing it at another man, just expressing my anger is okay. It's welcome in this space. And so, yeah, it's different for each man. What is the biggest thing for him? In public, it's very different. What my experience in public is that my anger is not welcome.
Even expressing your anger is not welcome.
It's not welcome. If I talk about something that's considered unsafe, and there's a podcaster, I don't know what he is. There's a prominent podcaster in the world right now who is a man who gets pointed at as he is the problem. This man is a bad man. Every time I mention his name, particularly around women, I get shut down. And so what I feel is happening is, as a man, so what is my role as a man is to create safety. And by me sometimes speaking into these things in public or with a woman, I get shut down because I'm not considered safe. Now, I'm not being heard or understood in that, and that's fine. I can sit with that. I can see that there's something going on for the women that they're not feeling safe in this. And I would like to be able to reach a place where I'm able to talk about these things with an open heart, know where I'm coming from, this is actually about creating safety and bridging that gap, not creating this separation and saying, well, this is bad and that's the end of the story. Does that answer the question? I feel like I've gone off a little bit.
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you see the future of your organization and the future of male energy, or in general humanity, male-female interactions? Because it's changing right now. There's a huge shift, right, in consciousness, like we never ever seen before. Even that we're having this podcast right now, we can exchange. You're coming from a completely different culture than I am, and we talk superbly openly about many things which for most men would be so hard even to communicate, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, I have great hope for humanity, for men, for women, for coming together, to creating a better world together, not this separation, not the patriarchy, not the feminists. We are one. We are one together, and we are in this to support each other. And we have differences that must be recognized and understood and celebrated in each other, because walking alongside each other in this journey, we get to improve each other. The journey of relationship is about me being identified in my wounding and being called out in that. Okay, well, that's a really important point. How can I improve that? How can I change that? I'm feeling really hurt right now. Why am I feeling really hurt? What's the wounding in that? Facing these things for myself allows others to face them around me and creates a better world. I have a lot of hope for humanity. Yeah, there's, I actually don't have a TV anymore, which I'm really grateful for, and I've stopped watching the news. It's amazing how much, it's been a few years. It's amazing how much difference that makes.
I would totally agree with that. I've been not watching for news for like 5 years now at all.
It changes everything.
Yep.
The fear machine that is inputting that into my brain. There's a reason why, TVs, it's called TV programming, because they are programming whatever's coming from that is actually, being put into my mind. Everything in this universe, everything in my world starts as a thought, then I speak it, and then I can act it. And if I'm watching something of other people putting thoughts into me, well, that's going to become my reality. And I don't want that anymore. I want my reality to be my reality. Now, it's good for me to have an awareness. Like, I understand there's a pretty weird election going on in America right now.
I have no idea about that. What's going on?
No, it doesn't even matter. Like,
Yeah.
This whole idea that these people are in charge, it doesn't exist. Like,
Yeah.
they're just funded by multinational corporations, and they will do as they're told. They're just the front man. But for some reason, people buy into this idea that these are our leaders and they're going to show us the way. That's what we've got. That's a terrible idea. These people, these are not the leaders I want. I want inspiring people to be leaders, and there are inspiring people all over the world. But that's not what that system is about. And so, how do I create the world I want to live in? All right, I've got to live under the parameters of society. And there are laws and rules that I have to abide by, but how do I live freely within that for myself? And how do I create the world I want within that? Where do I see the world in a couple of hundred years? Is that what you asked? Where do I see the world in a couple of hundred years? Was that the question?
No, a couple 100 years from now, that'd be a very probably impossible question to ask. I would probably refer to next 5 to 10 years, because we will see it. We have quantum computers, AI, changing our world, as we speak. I think 10 years from now, we will experience unbelievable things like we cannot even dream about today.
I went for a drive the other night through the city. And one of the open groups we hold in the city, and there's new parking meters where I tap my card, I have to put in my number plate. It can digitally send me a receipt. Excuse me. And I was driving through the city the other night, and this car pulled up next to me. And it was the brand of the parking meter. And it had this box on the roof that just looked like a storage box on the roof. But inside that storage box, it was riddled with infrared cameras, infrared devices, and I can see what he's doing. He's literally just driving up and down the street, and the meters are talking to his machine, his car.
Yep.
This is the new parking meter. He doesn't need to walk around and, put chalk on the tires anymore. It's all digital. That's frightening. I remember seeing that in a movie in the 80s. Like, this is the world that we're creating. Is I won't even have to leave. Like, it'll be come out of my account. The money is going to be out of my account before I even know it. This is the world that's being created digitally around us. AI is a really interesting construction. Terminator, I grew up watching Terminator. That was pretty bleak, the idea of AI there. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of good or bad. I know what I can use it for in terms of good, because the energy, it's just energy. Whatever I put into it is what I will get out of it. Someone shared with me that, nobody actually knows what AI is going to be capable of in the next 3 to 5 years, because it's moving so quickly. So I'm studying counseling. It will probably be able to counsel someone better than a human can counsel someone in the next 3 to 5 years. Now,
it is very possible. Yep.
That comes with a caveat. It may be able to do it intellectually, so say the right things and ask the right questions and draw those things out. What it can't do is create the human connection, because it's digital, it's computer. And that's what's going to be missing in the world in the very near future. And that's what people are going to be craving. It's what people are craving right now. It's why we're doing this podcast. It's about creating connection. It's about keeping the humanity alive. And that's what's going to be the big shift in the world in the next 5 to 10 years for me, is people will be looking for more people-centered connection. They'll be looking for places to go, communities, because AI will deliver a certain amount, but it's not going to create a human experience.
Well, I hope that technology is good for us and that we can work with it on a daily basis, and it may help us with everything on every layer. Luke, do you believe in magic?
Absolutely.
How do you understand magic?
Magic for me is alchemy, transformation.
Mm-hmm.
There are many things in this world I can't explain. And for me, they're magic. And so they happen within me, and they also happen around me. See, things like, how do I explain magic? Wow. So serendipity, when things are happening serendipitously in my life, it's a signal that the magic is happening, that the creativity, the joy, it's happening, and to follow that path. When I see, alchemy, as I was taught in school, is lead being turned to gold. But what I see is alchemy in humans. So the lead within humans, that weight within humans, the shame, the fear, being turned into gold within myself. So my wounding, instead of it being the thing that slows me down and turns me into not a nice person, I can alchemize that into my gift and what drives me forward in this life. That for me is magic. There
Nice.
are many other experiences, etherical experiences, I guess, I've seen, I've experienced, I've heard. They're also magic. There is more going on in this universe than I know, than I can possibly know. And for me, that's the magic. That's the magic of life. Being open to receiving and experiencing all of it.
Would you be so kind and share with us some kind of a hands-on experience, what you do in circles with your body to help men change whatever they need to change, incorporate some kind of a, like you said, you do a lot, you work a lot with yoga and qigong, right?
So that's me personally.
Mm-hmm.
The circles are not so much a somatic experience. The circles are more, they are, but it's not a physical. The circles are more about talking. It really is about talking, which is what we're doing here. And I can run you through the introduction process if you like.
Sure.
So the introduction process is the way that we start every circle. And we will always start, beg pardon, there are some circles will start with a smudging, so clearing the energy, changing the energy of me from the space outside and moving into this container that we're creating. We run a short meditation, and that can be, it's not an extensive meditation about drifting off into the universe or anything like that. It's actually about just how do I connect to my heart? What's a meditation I can use to connect to my heart? And it's as simple as taking a couple of deep breaths, following that energy of the breath into the body, and then feeling into the body. Are there any tensions? Are there any emotions I'm feeling? And then directing any of that energy around my heart. How is my heart feeling? What is going on for me? At the beginning of every circle, we do what's called a check-in. And so a check-in is to find out who am I experiencing in this moment right now, right here, right now. You may have, I actually don't even know what time it is where you are right now.
Well, it's 7 p.m. right now in Chicago.
7 p.m. Great. So I don't know how your day has been. You may have had a really bad argument, and so this man walking in is quite cranky, and I might perceive that as he's being cranky at me, and I only feel that because I don't know his story. I don't know what's happened for him, and so what we do is we check in this moment. So who is this man I'm meeting in this moment right now? And we use a check-in. We use an acronym. And the acronym is PIPES, P-I-P-E-S. How am I physically? How am I intellectually? Am I on purpose? How am I emotionally? And how am I spiritually? Now, they mean different things for each man. I'm not going to tell you what, that's up to each man to decide what that means for him. So it originally was pies, and we've thrown in purpose. They are the legs of a table, my table. When I check in with those, if one of my legs is wobbly or short, my personal table is going to be wobbly. And so that gives me an idea of what I need to pay attention to. What is something I can change in my life? Is that something you'd like to give a go right now?
Sure.
Yeah, cool. So I'll model it. So my name's Luke. Physically, my feet are a mess because I hiked a long way through the kayak journey yesterday, and my upper body is quite sore from kayaking and lifting. Apart from that, my body is in really good shape. I feel really well rested. Intellectually, my mind is really busy. I have a lot of different projects on the go, as well as good, better, best men. I finished my work of 13 years a month ago, and so I'm stepping out into the realm of creating for myself and for the world around me. And so my mind is quite busy with all of these projects. It's excited busy, though. It's not oh my God, I'm going to work again. Purpose. My purpose is to be heart-centered. I'm very much on purpose being heart-centered. My greater purpose outside of that is creating my new life. It's been 4 weeks since I've left my job, and so I'm creating this new life, my purpose in my life, and I'm really enjoying that. And everything I'm doing around it seems to be on purpose right now. Emotionally, yeah, I'm just joyous and playful. Am I feeling any fear and apprehension? No, I'm not fear. I have felt fear and apprehension in probably even the lead up to this, but that's all released now, and I'm actually feeling really comfortable with you and joyous and excited. Yeah, I'm joyous with all of the playful things in my life, with the men in my life. The woman I'm dating is a wonderful experience. So yeah, a lot of joy and playfulness in my emotion. There's always an underlying sadness, particularly around my mother and my journey around my mother. That's deep, and that's always there. And spiritually, for me, my spiritual connection is nature. If I get into nature, it fuels my soul. And so I've been camping 3 weekends in a row now. And then got out kayaking and hiking yesterday. So my spirit and my soul are really full right now and really playful. That's me. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, love that.
Would you like to have a crack?
Now it's my turn, right? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So my name is Robert. Thank you for sharing, Luke. My body feels good today. I drink a lot of superfoods, which I highly recommend. It's the best fuel for your body. I've been walking a lot today. I walk every day a lot in nature, trying to stay fit. So I'm good here, although there is a lot of stress in my body. I work a lot. I do many things. Now, mentally,
Intellectually,
like you
yeah.
said, your mind intellectually, mentally, my mind is also very busy because I'm having this podcast with you, and I have to focus on accurate questions you love, you love. There's a lot of information processing right now within me. It maybe people don't realize, but being a host on a podcast and doing a podcast, it's superbly challenging task for your mind. Like a lot of people think, oh, they just watch it, but if you want to make it really fascinating and interesting, your mind is like just full throttle all the time. But even though it's very busy, I try to stay very calm. You have superbly good energy and aura around you, so there's a lot of calmness emanating from you. Now we have purpose, right?
Yeah.
My purpose is to help people and consciousness and life and evolution to evolve. This is what drives me the most, is to share. We have amazing team on the podcast of 6 people, which I'm highly grateful for that. Also, my purpose is to, like you said beautifully today, you gotta have this connection with yourself first, right? You gotta help yourself first, and then you can help others. My purpose is also not to hurt anyone. My purpose is to create wealth to share with everyone, mental, all kind of wealth, abundance, because we deeply believe in that that source of abundance is absolutely unlimited for everyone, and it's fully accessible to everyone. Then we have emotions, right?
Yeah. Emotionally.
Emotionally. Emotionally, this is always a challenge for me. There's so many emotions processing right now. Now we went into like if I can be completely honest here, we went into the inception of from recording the podcast to go even deeper, and now we have this hands-on experience which requires even more computation of data and information. And yeah, there's so many emotions, but I'm trying to stay very positive, have positive emotions, and also not to suppress negative emotions, because I think so many people are suppressing negative emotions, right? And now spiritually, right? You said. Yes, that's also a challenge. My life is very complex, like superbly complex, and it's getting even more and more complex. even doing this beyond the courage, it's just. I had a really interesting conversation today with my technicians. We were trying to find some best solutions, holistic solutions, because we're going to open a podcast studio in Adelaide, in Australia. And maybe we can have this conversation a bit later. Maybe you would be somehow interested in participating in that beyond the courage, because your creation, good, better, best man, is so beautiful. Maybe somehow we can work together later, and we have to find. I was talking to my technicians to find the right solutions to provide the people over there holistic solutions, so they can feel comfortable and have this podcast studio over there without so much hassle and thinking about it, because it's a very complex thing, to organize the sound and picture and everything. A lot of people think it's very easy nowadays. No, it's not. If you want to have a professional quality, it's very challenging. But spiritually, well, I think it's superbly beautiful that we may have this podcast and exchange information, like two men trying to be good, better, best. What's beyond best? Is there anything beyond best? Is beyond best, or what is it?
It's a journey.
Is that how it looks in the circles? Because I'm really trying here to express my feelings and everything within me. Is that how it looks?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What I'm interested. Sorry, have you finished?
Yeah. Thank you.
So what I'm more interested in is, how was that experience for you? How do you feel now?
Well, it was quite a challenge, but it was also very relieving. Because there's so much tension. There's so much tension within me, within my body, within my mind. My life is superbly challenging on so many layers. This is not complaining. I'm just sharing, how it looks on a daily basis. It's a pure madness. What we go through here, in Chicago, we do a couple projects. We work with so many people trying to transcend so many things, and it's a pure madness. It's a pure, beautiful madness to try to create something, not only consume, like most people go to their work in the corporations, then they come back and they turn on Netflix, you say turn on TV, and that's all they do, right? And people like you and me, we're trying to contribute, create some kind of a platform, some kind of places where people can meet and share and help evolution in life to go beyond of whatever it is, right? Thank you.
What I really loved hearing is your purpose. Like, you have a really clear direction and focus on how you see the world and how you want to change the world. And so many men don't have that. And so I just want to honor you in that you're clear in what it is you want to do. And for me, my purpose is to be heart-centered. My mission is to lead heart-centered healing, inspiring all to use their gifts in tune with nature. And so that guides me in anything I do. Is what I'm doing, is this project going to help me complete that mission? No, I'm not interested. If the project is in light, yep, okay, I am interested. Let's go play in that space. And I hear that for you, because you're creating this podcast and how wonderful, launching one in Adelaide. I'm super interested in being involved here in Adelaide. Absolutely.
I love to hear that.
Know quite a lot of the community. Adelaide's quite a vibrant community of people stepping into this space, into this consciousness. And yeah, I look forward to bringing those people forward to the world.
That'd be such a beautiful.
Sorry, did I drop out for a moment there?
No, you were online all the time.
Apologies.
But you were concerned about something, right? Some kind of a noise, or?
Yeah, my phone actually rang. and my screen went blank because it's all connected. So
yeah, that'd be wonderful if you could, if we could work together, find some layers to help evolution, life, people, consciousness. There's so many things to do, right? There's like you mentioned. If we come back to watching news, I remember when I decided one day I'm gonna stop watching news completely, right here, right now, and my mind was hardcorely addicted to watching news for so many years, and I got this idea in my mind. Somehow, that into the deep intuition from my heart, and I grabbed my phone, and I went on the Play Store and I type in good news, and surprisingly, some human being came out with the idea to create a good news app, and I started reading, and you could find only good news over there, and I was superbly surprised how many good people are out there. That's what you mentioned today. There's more good people than, but from the other hand, we said there's nothing is good and evil, so good is also very subjective term, right?
yeah.
So
But
I started watching good news, and I was so surprised that there's so many good people out there. And then from good news, I went to the comedy. I started instead of watching news in the morning, I started watching comedy.
yeah.
So much comedy, and I fall in love into comedy. And imagine if nowadays most of the people, instead of watching news, that there's so much negativity over there, would watch good news or comedy, how our universe would look, right?
Absolutely. If people were more playful and fun within themselves, the world will be a more playful and fun place.
Yeah.
If I'm fearful in myself, well, the world is a fearful place. It's simple. It's not easy. Yeah.
We have this repeatable question on the podcast, which is always a different question. What would be the question you ask yourself through me to express the deepest core of your heart? What would be the question you would like to be asked through me?
I often ask this question of people when I first meet them, because I don't like the small talk. The how are ya? Hi, my name's Luke. How are ya? What have you been up to? What do you do for work? Is the most common question I get asked.
Yeah.
I really don't like that question because it doesn't tell me anything about a person. What I like to ask people is, what is your essence? What lights you up?
So what is your essence? What's lights you up?
Thanks, Robert.
You're welcome.
I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before, so. Oh dear.
Are you playing with us now, or no one asked you that question before?
No, actually, I don't think anyone's ever asked me in return either. So I'm not playing yet. So I'm actually feeling a little, oh shit, how do I answer this? Into what is my essence?
That's a good one. I love it.
My essence is to be joyful and playful, and to hear people, to bring people together, to create community, to be a better version of itself. When I speak about my mission, to lead heart-centered healing, inspiring all to use their gifts in tune with nature, that really speaks to my essence. It really speaks to what I'm here to do and what brings me joy. the in tune with nature is a really important part for me, and that's why I enjoy surfing and crazy kayaking trips and camping. And how do I get in tune with nature? Nature is a natural reset in my system, and so many people living in cities don't get to experience this anymore. It creates this clarity in my mind. And so my essence is to be able to bring that to people, and to be that myself, to be heart-centered within myself, so that other people can experience and feel their own hearts. Yeah, thanks, Robert.
That's beautiful and magical. We have talked today a lot about male energy. I got another challenging question for you. What do you think that modern women expect mostly from us, from men? What are the expectations or fears, if you can elaborate on both ends?
Yeah. It was asked for me recently, what is the one thing that women want? And the answer was given to me. The one thing that women want is safety. They want to feel safe.
I would agree with that completely.
Yeah. And my role as a man can make a woman feel unsafe, or I can create that safety. And so this is about the polarity. This is about the duality of man and woman. I believe my role as a man is to feel safe within myself, to be able to know when I'm in fear, when I'm dysregulated, so I can then go off and sit with men and deal with that, so that I don't bring it home and I can create that safety for women. If I see the lens through that ideal of creating safety, when I speak about these things, about the toxic men in the world, when I mention their name and the woman shuts down, or I get told I'm not allowed to talk anymore, cancel culture, it's because she doesn't feel safe. Women are not feeling safe. Now, the pendulum has swung, and I believe it's swinging back. It swung quite heavily towards feminism, and feminism is good. And then there's the extreme feminism, which can be, quite toxic. Like, we don't need men.
Yeah.
We don't need men for anything. Really? Okay. See how that goes for you. I need women. I need women in my life. They keep me balanced.
Yep.
They keep me checked. They keep me communicative. They keep me listening. They keep me loving. This is to deny any part of life is to deny part of myself. And I feel like the pendulum is swinging back, so that we can find this way of navigating life together, which is the pure balance, the yin and the yang. It brings me into balance. One of the experiences I've been having recently is quite a tantric experience. And for me, that's an experience of connection to source. And if we can do that together and sit in that space together through life, knowing that this is all about elevating each other as a connection to source, life becomes beautiful together and with each other.
I love that. So you have mentioned that you started a new relationship recently, right?
Yeah.
Would you be so kind and open to share how is this process going? Or is it too intimate question for you?
No, look, this is the challenge for me. My shame is talking about relationships and talking about sex, right? And so what's happening for me right now is I'm feeling anxiety. I'm feeling that in my chest, like, oh shit. That's what's going on in here right now, right? Oh shit. can't believe it. And for me, it's important to now to start to talk about it and to overcome that shame. So in one sense, I'm swearing at you, Robert. In the other sense, I'm thanking you so, for asking. So
Love it.
there's relationship. I'm having a wonderful experience. A wonderful experience. This woman is tantrika. I keep calling her an exceptional human. She has done a lot of her own work, a lot of her own work. And so when stuff comes up between us, we're able to communicate about it in a very, very different way than I've experienced in relating before. And so my wounding in the past is that I'm not worthy. Things would be argumentative, and that would be my pattern. And that's probably from witnessing my parents as well. I don't think I ever saw them complete an argument healthily. And so I'm having to go off and learn this for myself. And yeah, this woman, she holds me to account. She shows me the mirror. Now I'm open to seeing that mirror as well. And it's the same mirror as you asking this question and me having that feeling of, oh shit. It's like when she shows me the mirror, that's the feeling. Oh shit. Okay, I'll go away. Thankfully, I've got men's groups, 3 times a week at the moment where I'm facilitating. I'm facilitating, but they're as much for me as they are for the other men. So I get to express, oh my God, this is how I'm feeling. So that when I come back to this woman, I have a very clear picture of what's going on in my head and my heart. I don't just come at her with this, a saucepan full of spaghetti thrown at her and for her to make sense of it. I can actually be quite clear and responsive and sharing with her exactly what's going on for me. And in that, she can hear me. And that creates, so vulnerability in relationships, so me coming forward and being vulnerable in relationship and challenging myself in all of the stories I've told myself over the years. I won't be accepted for this. I'm not good enough. I lean in now and I say the things that I feel like I'm going to be rejected for first. Because she proves me wrong every time. She accepts me as I am. She doesn't want to change me. And this is a whole new way of being. It's a very open way. It's very opening. It's very expansive, not contractive. I guess in relationships in the past, and this is, I'm not blaming my partners. This has been my responsibility. Is I've been experiencing a lot of contraction, a lot of shutdown, and that's because I've allowed them to play into my wounds and to poke at my wounds, which is a contracting energy. Whereas this relating experience is an expansive energy. I feel a bigger version of myself, and I hope I'm creating a similar experience for this woman as well. It's long distance, which adds a challenge, a complexity, but there's also a gift in that as well. Because in the time apart, I get to listen to the stories I tell myself in the void. What are those stories? And I get to reprogram those stories. Now, so far, it's been a lot of insecurity on my behalf. And I've come to realize that she's quite secure in this experience, and I'm the one experiencing a lot of insecurity and sharing that. It's coming out sideways. I'm not acceptable if you don't speak to me, or I don't even. Yeah, it's quite tumultuous. I'm creating this, and so I've been able to share that with her. That this has been, that the insecurities in the relationship are mine. This is what I'm experiencing, and it's for me to work on. And even just speaking that to a woman shifts the energy and changes it. And it's through having the practice of speaking it with men in circle that now I can speak it with a woman and change the energy. So this is the magic. You asked me a question earlier about the magic. I would never have been able to ask a woman that question 5 years ago. No way. Or share that. It's too vulnerable. She's going to reject me. But now having the ability to be able to share that and see this complete version of myself is an absolute gift and helps us both elevate, expand, and move forward. So it's having a wonderful experience. Thanks, Robert.
I love them. You have amazing talent of communicating your emotions, your internal state of being. Do you think it would be a good idea to invite female energy women to those men's circles at some point?
Really great question, Robert. So the short answer is yes.
Mm-hmm. And the long answer?
The longer answer is men need a space to be with men. Full stop.
How about if we could like let's say one session just men only,
yep,
and one session female men, would that be doable?
100%. It is something I keep getting asked in community. Women are our biggest supporters. Women understand what we're doing. They can look at their man and go, geez, I wish he would just be a little more vulnerable or deal with his emotions, or they see it.
Yeah, of course they do.
What we often, before we run a program, we run a free information night, where we give an experience of what the 9-week program is going to be like. So it involves a couple of activities. We run the circle. We do a check-in very similar to what we've just done. And we invite women, children, anybody can come along to this event, men, and we often have women come along. And we say, thank you. Okay, so men, who's interested in being involved in the program? And the women always say, I want to do it. You can't. I'm sorry. This is a men's program. There is absolute benefit in doing it together. I totally agree. It's in my field of vision. So I have a lot of bubbles of field of vision of things I want to do in this world. And that's one of them. My priority at this point is men, youth, young men. So we're about to launch young men's programs as well. There are enough community circles around at the moment creating this, but yes, there is strength and power in doing this. I just haven't the energy or the space for it at this point in time. The answer is absolutely. I look forward to having this space where men can hold women in their journey, and then women can do the same for men, and then we can also that we can co-create together in this space.
Love that.
Totally agree. Thank you, Robert. Yeah.
All right. Like, would you like to add something else to our viewers, listeners, to your potential male, female energy who may attempt because I see that you guys are expanding, right? And I know I asked you the question about the future, but you said there's so many circles around right now, right, in Adelaide, and there's many people doing it. So what is this community needing most for right now?
Thank you, man. What we're needing is courageous men. More courageous men to step in. And I understand that just taking that one step is courageous enough. I'm talking about vulnerability. I'm talking about emotions. I'm talking about things that traditionally men go, are you kidding me? And what I'm sharing is that this builds an inner strength and an inner courage. And all it takes is for a man to step through the door. Now, everything's by invitation in what we do. So if it's not for him, that's okay. We're not forcing anybody. We're not forcing ideas or anything on any man. It's about men coming together. And what men experience sitting in the space is, yeah, I'm facilitating. I'm just holding the space. I'm not actually just okay, keeping check of the time. The men in the circle generate the conversation. They generate the energy. I'm just there holding it. The biggest thing I would like to share, and this is a saying from Joseph Campbell, is the cave I fear the most holds the gold I seek. The cave I fear the most holds the gold I seek.
The gold I seek. Mm-hmm.
And that's an internal cave. The cave I fear the most, which is, the fear of emotion, the fear of addressing my shame. That's the dark cave. If I can walk into that cave in a safe space, which happens to be men's circles, that's the gold. That's actually the gold I'm seeking. And that's the alchemy. Going into that cave and coming out with gold on how to change my life for the better and the world.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So would you be so kind and share with our viewers and listeners where we can find you right now in Adelaide?
Yeah, thank you, Robert. So Good, Better, Best Men. We have a website, Facebook page, so social medias, Instagram as well. We currently have 4 open circles running. Mitcham, the City, Gawler, and we have one in Christie's Downs as well, which is actually full at the moment. And what I'm looking to do is to get men to start another one up there so that we can bring more men in. I'm completing 2 Begin the Journey programs at the moment, one in Woodville and one in Mount Barker. And I'm looking to launch, at least one more before the end of the year, most probably Campbelltown. The socials will have all of that information on it. And a young man's program in the south of Adelaide before Christmas as well. In the new year, we will be launching quite a few more Begin the Journey programs. And with that will come the info nights. We're holding info nights in community spaces all over Adelaide up until Christmas. We get invited into a lot of NGO, non-government organisation spaces, community spaces, community connection spaces, to speak with people. But this is to speak with men particularly. This is for men of all ages, of all races, of all monetary values. There is no judgment on any of it. As a man, we just walk in as a man, as who I am. We don't even talk about what your job is. I don't care what your job is. I care about you as a man and what your passion and what your purpose is. And how do we bring that out?
Thank you so much. I love your work, Luke. And thank you for this amazing conversation. We also highly encourage our viewers and listeners to, for the interaction with us, send us universal questions for our guests, and also who would you like to see as our next guest, locally, globally, in Australia, in Europe. And we post all the links in the descriptions. And thank you so much, Luke, for your time. You are such a beautiful, amazing, magical male energy and a human being. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my man.
Thank you.